In the heart of a crumbling, ivy-covered castle nestled within the misty forests of Eldoria, Eric Hunter toiled in his secret chamber. Hidden behind a rotating bookshelf in the castle's ancient library, the room was a fortress within a fortress. Eric was engrossed in his task, carefully extracting priceless gems, glittering diamonds, and golden coins from his enchanted satchel, a relic of ancient sorcery that never grew heavy or full, no matter how much treasure it held. He placed each item with meticulous care into a massive concealed vault built into the stone floor. The vault shimmered with the radiance of its contents, casting a golden glow that illuminated Eric's gaunt, weathered face. His eyes gleamed with a mix of greed and satisfaction as he admired the hoard. Amassed through years of outwitting dark wizards, monstrous creatures, and cunning thieves. Eric had locked the heavy oak door from the inside and drawn thick velvet curtains over the narrow window slits to ensure no prying eyes, servant or otherwise, could glimpse his treasure. The satchel, a magical artifact that appeared empty to anyone but Eric, poured forth its endless bounty. Rubies, emeralds, sapphires, and gold coins stamped with forgotten runes. Each piece was a trophy from his victories over malevolent sorcerers, and Eric, the sole master of this wealth, reveled in its splendor. Hidden vaults like this one lay scattered throughout the labyrinthine catacombs beneath his castle, each brimming with treasures that could rival the coffers of kings. Yet, despite his unimaginable wealth, Eric was a miser, loath to spend even a single coin unless driven by dire necessity. His wife, Lady Eleanor, was his polar opposite, a woman of extravagant tastes who spent gold as freely as water. Eric despised her reckless spending, but he was powerless against her domineering presence. The monthly stipend he received from Lord Alistair, the High Regent of Eldoria, was substantial enough to sustain a lavish lifestyle for an entire month if managed wisely. But Eleanor's penchant for opulent gowns, rare perfumes, and extravagant feasts depleted it within days. When the stipend ran dry, she would demand more, forcing Eric to concoct elaborate lies about borrowing from friends to cover her expenses. He guarded the secret of his hidden vaults fiercely, knowing that if Eleanor discovered them, she would squander his fortune in a heartbeat. Eric's enchanted satchel was his greatest asset and his deepest fear. Though it appeared as a tattered, empty bag to others, he lived in constant dread that someone might steal it. Whenever Eleanor was away, he seized the opportunity to transfer its contents to his vaults. Today was such a day. Eleanor had left for a grand wedding in a neighboring kingdom, leaving Eric free to work undisturbed. Or so he thought. Unbeknownst to him, two glowing yellow eyes watched from a narrow skylight in the chamber's ceiling. They were not human eyes, but those of a beast, or something far worse. The eyes burned with an eerie intensity, tracking Eric's every move as he filled the vault. Oblivious to the danger, Eric continued until the vault was brimming. With a satisfied sigh, he sealed the heavy lid, its magical wards humming faintly as they locked into place. Smiling to himself, he placed the satchel beneath his pillow and collapsed onto the creaking bed, exhausted from hours of labor. Within moments, sleep claimed him and the chamber fell silent. Hours later, a thunderous pounding on the door jolted Eric awake. The blows were so forceful that the ancient wood groaned, threatening to splinter. "Who's there?" Eric shouted, scrambling out of bed. "Open the door, you lazy oaf," came Eleanor's furious voice. Panic surged through Eric as he rushed to unlock the door, barely leaping aside as his wife stormed in like a tempest. Her eyes blazed with rage, her elaborate gown swirling as she advanced. "Were you sleeping, or are you already dead?" Do you know how long I've been pounding on this door? She snapped, grabbing Eric by the collar and pulling his face close to hers, sniffing suspiciously. Have you been drinking? I was just sleeping, Eric stammered, his voice trembling. Eleanor's temper was legendary, and when her fury erupted, she could reduce the cunning Eric Hunter to a quivering wreck. He had outsmarted countless foes, wizards, bandits, even demons, but Eleanor was his one true weakness. Her strength, both physical and willful, dwarfed his own frail frame. Once they had been equals, their marriage arranged by Lord Alistair himself after Eleanor's father, a revered knight, fell in battle. Alistair had raised Eleanor as his own, and their union had seemed a perfect match. But after the birth of their daughter, Eleanor's health and vigor had surpassed Eric's, leaving him frail and perpetually at her mercy. "Why were you sleeping at this hour?" Eleanor barked. "Come with me. My friend needs your help, and you will do it so I can hold my head high and say my husband isn't a useless fool." "Friend, what kind of help?" Eric asked, bewildered. "Stop dawdling and move. Or do you want me to drag you out?" Eleanor snapped, her voice dripping with venom. Eric, tail between his legs, followed her through the castle's winding corridors to the grand hall. There, seated on a velvet chaise, was a strikingly beautiful woman who looked every inch a noble. Her gown shimmered with silver thread, and her eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and desperation. "This is my dear friend, Lady Isabella," Eleanor said, gesturing to the woman. "Isabella, this is my husband Eric. Now tell him what you need." "Oh, Eleanor, you're truly fortunate to be married to such a renowned hero," Isabella said with a warm smile, causing Eleanor's face to glow with pride. "Please, Sir Eric, can you help me?" "Of course," Eric replied quickly, sensing Eleanor's piercing gaze. "You're my wife's friend. How could I refuse? But what exactly is the task?" Isabella's expression darkened. "My sister, Princess Celeste, has been taken by a vile wizard. I need you to rescue her." Eleanor interjected before Eric could respond. "Her cousin, Celeste, is as beautiful as a queen. We all call her Princess because she carries herself like one. A week ago, she was tending to her garden on the roof of her manor, surrounded by her mother and other ladies. Suddenly, a monstrous figure appeared, a wild, beastly man, wielding a staff carved from human bone. His eyes were large, glowing yellow, and terrifying. The women screamed, but before anyone could act, he seized Celeste and flew into the sky, declaring, "I am Ragnar the Sorcerer, and I claim her as my bride. Anyone who follows will burn to ash." Then he vanished with her. Isabella continued, her voice trembling. "The kingdom's seers consulted their tomes and confirmed that Ragnar is a savage, man-eating wizard who dwells in the caves of the northern peaks. He's too feral to live in a castle, and no one dares challenge him. He devours human flesh. But I remembered Eleanor's tales of your exploits, Eric. How you've slain countless dark wizards. Please, you're our only hope." Eric's heart sank. A man-eating wizard living in caves? Such a creature would have no treasure, no gold, nothing to tempt Eric's greed. "I can face any wizard," he said cautiously. "But a savage, cannibalistic sorcerer? That's a different matter. Perhaps it's best to mourn your sister and move on." "What?" Eleanor roared, her eyes blazing. "Are you refusing my friend? How dare you?" But Eleanor, he's a man-eater. What if he devours me?" Eric protested, his voice quavering. "Devour you? There's barely any meat on your bones," Eleanor sneered. "I don't care. You will defeat this wizard and rescue Celeste, or I'll make you regret it. Understood?" Eric sighed, searching for an excuse. "I'll need Lord Alistair's permission first," Isabella interrupted, her voice soft but urgent. "Eric, my sister was wearing a ring with a rare diamond shaped like a scorpion. It's a family heirloom passed down from a legendary jeweler in our lineage. gifted by a ting. Its value is beyond any royal treasury. Please, ensure the wizard doesn't keep it for himself." Eric's ears perked up at the mention of the diamond. A scorpion-shaped diamond? The Akib Diamond. His voice trembled with excitement, though he masked it with a casual tone. "That's no ordinary gem. Kings and emperors have coveted it for centuries, yet none have claimed it. Rest assured, I'll ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." In his heart, Eric had already made his decision. The Akib Diamond, a fabled treasure of unmatched rarity, was worth facing any danger, even a savage man-eating wizard like Ragnar the Sorcerer. There was no need to seek permission from Lord Alistair now. The promise of the diamond was enough. Eric questioned Isabella about the northern peaks, the desolate mountain range where Ragnar dwelled, and then mounted his black stallion, riding off toward the perilous unknown. His mind was consumed by visions of the glittering gem, urging him to claim it as swiftly as possible. After 3 days of grueling travel through fog-shrouded valleys and treacherous paths, Eric reached the northern peaks. The mountains stretched endlessly before him, their jagged, barren summits piercing the gray sky. Not a single tree or blade of grass broke the desolate landscape. No sign of life stirred in this forsaken place. The seers had warned that Ragnar lurked within these peaks. But the range was so vast that Eric could wander for a lifetime and never find the right cave. He needed a plan. Reaching into his enchanted satchel, Eric retrieved a small, crimson orb that shimmered like a polished ruby. "Find her," he whispered to the orb, a relic imbued with tracking magic. He tossed it to the ground, and it sprang to life, rolling forward as if guided by an unseen force. Eric followed, his boots crunching against the rocky terrain as the orb wove through narrow passes and over steep ridges. At last, it stopped before a massive cave entrance, blocked by an enormous boulder. Faint glimmers of light escaped from the edges, hinting at the secrets within. He picked up the orb, slipping it back into the satchel, and approached the boulder. Bracing himself, he pushed with all his might, but the stone refused to budge. For a frail man like Eric, it was an impossible task. Undeterred, he reached into his satchel again and pulled out a shimmering silver cord, a magical tether known as the Veil of Solace. Wrapping it around the boulder, he yanked with a sharp tug. The cord glowed faintly, and the massive stone slid aside as effortlessly as if it were a pebble. Eric returned the cord to the satchel, drew his enchanted dagger, and stepped cautiously into the cave. The cavern was vast, illuminated by an unnatural, flickering light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, as if the stone had been infused with sorcery. Eric's eyes scanned the shadows, but Celeste was nowhere in sight. As he ventured deeper, a chill ran through him. There, half buried in the rocky floor, was a young woman of breathtaking beauty, Celeste. Her lower body was encased in the stone, her face pale and lifeless, as if trapped in a sorceress spell. Before Eric could act, a guttural roar echoed through the cave, followed by a blinding flash of light. When his vision cleared, he was horrified to find himself frozen. His body turned to stone. Only his mind remained active, trapped in a petrified shell. Worse still, 2 identical copies of himself stood beside him, each clutching a dagger, indistinguishable from the real Eric. From the shadows emerged Ragnar the Sorcerer, a hulking, beastly figure with wild hair and glowing yellow eyes. In his hand, he clutched a staff carved from a human femur, its surface etched with dark runes. The wizard crawled low to the ground, passing between the 3 stone figures with eerie grace, then rose to his full, terrifying height. He approached Celeste, who stirred as he touched the staff to her body, breaking the spell that held her. She gasped, her voice trembling with fear. "Let me go, Ragnar. I'll serve you. I swear. Just let me go." The cave shook with Ragnar's monstrous laughter. "Your sister sent this pathetic wretch to save you," he sneered, gesturing toward the petrified Eric. "Look at him, a skeleton draped in skin. I used my magic to split him into 3 so I could be sure which was real. Now he's helpless, and I'll break his bones and feast on his withered flesh. As for you, Celeste, I've given you time to decide. Marry me, or I'll devour you too. Your flesh will be tender and sweet." Celeste's eyes darted to the stone figures, her voice shaking. "How do you know my sister sent him?" Ragnar grinned, revealing jagged teeth. "I am a wizard, princess. Nothing escapes me. This is Eric Hunter, the famed trickster of Lord Alistair's court. I saw him through the skylight of his chamber, hiding a vast treasure in a vault. I care not for gold, so I spared him then. Had I known he'd dare challenge me, I'd have crushed his throat on the spot. His wife, Lady Eleanor, is your sister's friend. She sent him here because he fears her wrath. But he doesn't know I'm no mere wizard. I'm a devourer of men. Now, answer me. Will you marry me, or shall I feast?" Celeste hesitated, her mind racing. "I'll marry you," she said finally, "but only if you give me a week to prepare." Ragnar's eyes gleamed with triumph. "A week? I'll wait a month if I must. The laws of dark magic forbid me from forcing a bride unless she consents. You've given your word, and you cannot retract it. I could wed you now if I wished." "Thank you," Celeste said, her voice steadying. "But one condition. Spare the man my sister sent. I'll send a message to her, saying I've chosen to marry you willingly. She'll be at peace." Ragnar scoffed. "Spare this wretch? I was going to pickle his bones. But fine, let him crawl back to your sister." He raised his staff, muttering an incantation, and struck it against the ground. A flash of light filled the cave, and when it faded, Eric's duplicates vanished. His body was free again, though his heart pounded with fear. "Go," Ragnar snarled. "Tell her sister Celeste has chosen me." Eric nodded, feigning defeat. "I heard her consent, but tell me, wizard, is it true you've hidden your soul in a filthy, diseased dog?" Ragnar laughed, his voice booming. "My soul? It's in this staff, bound by spells no one can break. Who has the power to undo my magic?" Eric's eyes flickered with cunning. "One last thing. Will you show me the treasures you've hoarded in these caves? I've heard tales of your wealth." "Treasures?" Ragnar sneered. "I care for flesh, not gold. These caves are littered with the bones of my meals. I cleared this one for the princess. Now leave, before I change my mind." Eric turned toward the cave's entrance, his head bowed. "You're truly leaving?" Celeste called after him, her voice heavy with disappointment. "I heard such tales of your bravery." Eric didn't respond, stepping out into the cold mountain air. Ragnar's victorious laughter echoed behind him. But Eric wasn't finished. From his satchel, he drew the Cloak of Solace, a shimmering veil that rendered him invisible. Wrapping it around himself, he slipped back into the cave. Unseen by Ragnar or Celeste, Celeste sat, her face etched with despair, while Ragnar gloated. "You thought Eric Hunter would save you in a week? You saw how he fled, tail between his legs." The wizard turned toward the cave's entrance, and in that moment, Eric struck. With lightning speed, he yanked the Cloak of Solace from his shoulders and wrapped it around Ragnar's staff, snatching it from his grasp. In a single fluid motion, he tossed the staff into his enchanted satchel, where its dark magic was instantly nullified. Ragnar howled in agony, clutching his chest as if struck by an unseen force. He began chanting a spell, desperate to reclaim his power, but Eric was too quick. From the satchel, he drew the dagger of Dawid, its blade glowing with ancient runes. With a single thrust, he plunged it into Ragnar's heart. The wizard's scream shook the cave as he collapsed, writhing in pain. Eric, Celeste cried, her eyes wide with shock. You killed him? I'm Eric Hunter, he said with a grin. I felled greater wizards than this pathetic beast. He relied on that staff, and now it's mine. But he's still alive, Celeste warned, pointing to Ragnar's twitching form. He was chanting something. Not for long, Eric replied. His soul is in that staff, and only I can destroy it. But first, a condition. Give me the Akib Diamond, and swear you'll never tell anyone I took it. Agree, or I leave you here with this monster. Celeste hesitated, then nodded. Take it. Just end him. She slipped the scorpion-shaped diamond ring from her finger and handed it to Eric. He tucked it into his satchel, then reached inside, pulling out the staff. With both hands, he snapped it in two. The cave echoed with Ragnar's final, blood-curdling scream as his body crumbled to dust. Eric helped Celeste to her feet, and together they left the cave. Outside, he found his stallion, and they rode back toward Eldoria. Celeste was overjoyed, free from the clutches of the man-eating wizard. Eric's heart swelled with triumph, not for the rescue, but for the Akib Diamond, the rarest gem in the world, now safely in his possession. What a wild ride! Did Eric Hunter's cunning save the day, or was his greed for the Akib Diamond his true master? If you loved this epic tale of dark magic and daring, smash that like button and subscribe for more thrilling fantasy adventures. Drop a comment below. Would you risk it all for a legendary treasure like the Akib Diamond? Or is Eric's quest a fool's errand? Let's get the conversation going. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Share this video with your friends, and let's see who else dares to face the man-eating wizard.